Hi, listeners. Just a quick note. Today's episode was recorded before the inauguration on January 20th, 2025. So if it seems as though Lisa and I are not addressing whatever current horrors are occurring, please be advised. While we recorded this episode, we were at least a little bit blissfully unaware. Enjoy.
Hello.
Hello.
It's 2025, presumably. It's not right now. We're recording this at the end of November, but we know this will come out at the beginning of 2025. So we are here to give you some free therapy as you recover from the holidays and as you recover from 2024. You are listening to What If Nothing Is Wrong With You. I am Paula D. Atkinson.
I am Lisa K. Knays.
And we're happy that you're with us as we all make our way through, trudge our road to happy destiny through the end of 2024, the beginning of 2025. We have some chit chat for you, and then we have some concepts for you around listening to your intuition and listening to each other. But first, we want to make sure that we introduce our friend Nnaemeka, because we heard that some of our listeners are like, who is this guy that you keep referring to? And we hear his voice maybe once an episode. So Nnaemeka is our friend, and he's a friend that I've had for like 19 years. And he is also our podcast producer. He produced my other podcast that I had before. And he listens to all of our episodes and does all of our editing and everything. And he lives in Vegas. And so this is Nnaemeka. Say hi.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
He's not just my, it was my biz team, the Biz Sisters, one of the Biz Sisters who they run my practice on the back end. And she was like, it's a great podcast. Who is the random guy? And you might clue us in as to what he's doing. And I was like, okay. So,
yes.
You know.
So this is Nnaemeka.
Nnaemeka shorts.
Yes.
Makes everything look pretty.
Does all of our TikToking, does all of our shorts, is a drag fan, has been in my life for 19 years because it has been besties with my life partner for like 30 years. Something horrifying like that.
Wow. I love that.
25 years maybe?
20, yeah.
Oh my God.
He fills in the pop culture gaps. He's like
does.
The replacement for the pop
on
culture
both
hole in my head.
He is so good. I mean, the best part is that Carlo can talk to Nnaemeka about all Marvel comic book bullshit, and then I get to text Nnaemeka about Lady Gaga, Chappell Roan, and K-pop. It's great. It's the best of all. He fills in so many holes in our lives.
Love it.
Yeah. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about was Trader Joe's. And we wanted to talk about this because Lisa and I polo back and forth, and I was at Trader Joe's, and the Trader Joe's specifically here in Palm Springs, California, is this gorgeous, beautiful place. This was right after the election. Feel like everything's going to die and the apocalypse is happening. And then Trader Joe's is this beautiful place where all of the gay men and all of the Republicans can all get their needs met in one place, and everyone's in a good mood, and all the snacks are plentiful. And it's just, I love Trader Joe's so much. It is my religion. When I first got into recovery from my eating disorder, my mom would pick me up from the airport when I came from San Diego, where I was in rehab, up to visit her. And she would take me to Trader Joe's first before we even went home, so that I would have all of my snacks and all of my provisions. And so it's always held a very special place in my heart.
I love it. And I don't know why we were talking about this, but then I was like, oh my God, so I used to live but I was a block away from a Trader Joe's in DC, and it was not, I mean, it was nice. I was not that emotionally attached. They did have the peanut butter puffs that you have to give your kids so they don't get allergic to peanut butter. So that was helpful. I remember we were talking about this because part of what we're going to talk about today, about how we might all stay sane in what is about to become, we don't know what this is about to become,
right,
is to get out in the world and not in a it's horrible if you use Amazon, you're a bad person. Because we were talking about how with capitalism, we're pretty sure everything we buy at this point is somehow tied to evil. And so but I was doing all in the pandemic. I really was ordering most of my groceries. I stopped going out. It's just with 2 little kids, it's just easier. But I started, for some reason, I went back into a Trader Joe's, and not only did they have all these wonderful pasta meals I can make easily for my husband and I, but everyone in the Trader Joe's that is near me is West African.
Oh yeah. In Maryland.
We were talking about it might be good to go into the stores just in general. And On Tyranny, they talk about this, how we need to be making eye contact with people, connecting with people. That it might just feel good to go into shop local. Yeah. And even if it's a Target, go inside and talk to people. Yes. And I have this I got to speak French. This was weeks before the election. I mean, I was yes. People were happy. They were helpful. Nobody could believe the white girl could speak French. I mean, it was it was just, and bad West African French, badly, but it was this oh yeah, people, I mean, it took a lot for me to not be could I work here? Do I have hours in my life to fill out a job? And I was no, you don't. Stop. But it was so lovely that I wanted to. And so just a little reminder. Yeah. If you feel isolated, if you feel hopeless, if you maybe just go to Trader Joe's or go out and get the smile things, at people. Even if they're the same evil things, you're going to order from the evil Amazon. But there's nothing. Some eye contact. It might help us through this. I am making myself buy things in person now again. And I think we lost touch with that a little. Remember in the pandemic, people were talking about the loss of anonymous interaction, right? And that is such an incredible part of being a human, is to live in the village and go and have anonymous interactions of talking about the weather and stuff. And I think it is really important right now when it does feel like the apocalypse is upon us and the evil fascist regime is taking charge. It is nice to go to Trader Joe's, look people in the aisle, talk about puffed peanut butter puffs or whatever. And yes, and remind yourself that people are inherently good and everyone loves salsa and everyone loves peanut butter flavored snacks. And yes, I think that's very important. Yeah. Also, there's no ethical decisions in late stage capitalism. And this is the thought I was having when I was in Trader Joe's. There is probably nothing I can purchase that won't put $1 in a white old male rapist's pocket. Probably nothing at this point. So then I'm going to go to Trader Joe's where everyone is nice to me, and I'm going to do what I can. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the sort of darker side of that, what I'm learning from about authoritarianism, on tyranny, is this idea that you want to be out making eye contact with people, not just because it's good for you, but to be reminding each other that we are human, kind of following up on the dehumanization. We want to remind each other that we are human. Right. And you do want to know if people that once were making eye contact in environments that once felt friendly suddenly do not. Stop. You want to be aware. And we're not aware of that if we're on our screens and our phones in our houses. Yeah. And that so it's also a just kind of it's a mix of self-care, self-preservation. So I don't know. This is all new, but I thought that was interesting too. Many of us are very isolated to varying degrees. Right. So. And we have been since the pandemic. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, Trader Joe's. I know that some people hate Trader Joe's, or most people hate the Trader Joe's parking lot. That's real. But once you get inside, it's pretty magical. It's a great place. Always, when I very first started this job, and every once in a while I get so overwhelmed, I would be I could just go work at Trader Joe's. That's always been my back pocket dream job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stock shelves. Absolutely. Show people where chips are. Totally. You have an update on Melissa Etheridge, even though Melissa Etheridge hasn't had an update on herself for decades, but I love that you keep having Melissa Etheridge updates. So this is in my defense. Our listener, Adam, who is an old college friend of mine. Hi, Adam. Also, his birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Adam. Now it's months late, whatever.
Scorpio.
He texted me and he said, just so you know, I don't think you not knowing who Melissa Etheridge is entirely on you.
Oh.
He said, and I quote, I think it's a Missouri thing.
Oh.
So we were perhaps Melissa Etheridge was suppressed from us. Okay. We were a victim.
Oh.
He says, end quote, I think maybe radio stations, I don't even actually know what this means, but I'm going with it.
Okay.
I think maybe radio stations in Missouri were playing Trisha Yearwood and calling her Melissa Etheridge because the association was strong for me too. So I just want to absolve myself.
Okay.
It's cultural.
Okay.
And it's not my fault.
I mean, I think Nnaemeka and I, as two other people born in 1976, are going to stay in our stance that it's insane that you didn't know who she was. But okay. But I appreciate Adam's input on the matter.
On top of that, confusing her with Trisha Yearwood, I think they're totally different.
Yeah,
we just dig the hole deeper.
I
We
think
double
you
down,
did. Yes.
And now I've drug Adam into my
now,
circle of shame.
Right. I don't. Yeah.
Me, Adam, and Liz. We're in the circle of shame. If anyone else wants to join us, please
And not knowing
send us a comment, and we'll just make the circle bigger.
No, thanks. No one's joining you there. That's it. Melissa Etheridge, justice for Melissa Etheridge. We also have an update about other things that Lisa and I are doing out in the world. There is a book that Lisa and I contributed to. It is called The Encyclopedia of Radical Healing. Lisa is holding up now for those of you who are watching on the YouTubes. It is great. It is created by our friends at Thick Press. THICK Press, and it is all these contributors of healers and incredible thinkers and thought leaders and writers and artists and rad people, and it just happened to come out in the midst of
it was like psychically, it was psychically ordained.
Amazing.
That it is published right now because it is literally 200 people contributed to it. Paul and I get no money, by the way. We just want to make
$0.
We get no money.
Yeah.
We did this for copies of it.
Yeah.
And they do have sliding scale pricing at Thick Press if you want a copy. But it literally is this book of basically how you can heal in all these like community-based ways that do not cost money, ways that like anybody can learn and do. There's witchcraft in here. There's God. Like art-based healing. And so I'm like, how freaking timely. It was psychically divine that they published. It's been in the works for 3 years. I think. It just happened to get published now.
That's so
great
incredible.
Resource.
And it's on the Amazon.
It's on the Amazon. It's on you can get it at Thick Press. You can get it at bookshop.org. All kinds of places, whatever is easiest. I don't know how many stores it's actually in physically, but if you want a guide that will make you feel less sad and more hopeful, and just like it is well timed.
Great.
Well timed.
Yay.
And there is a piece I want to read to Paula. She has not yet read the introduction, which I have read, about how it came into being. This is relevant for all of our explorations of therapy and otherwise. So the editors of this book, Aaron and Chris and Julie, they started to do it because, Chris interviewed somebody on his podcast, which is The Radical Therapist, which is cool. It's a great podcast.
Great podcast.
About an article called How Psychotherapy Lost Its Magic, the Art of Healing in the Age of Science. In the article, the authors, Miller and Hubble, detailed the finding that fewer people now turn to psychotherapy, 33% fewer than 20 years ago, with almost never returning, many almost never returning after the first appointment. They also showed how, while people were turning away from traditional psychotherapy, the use of psychic services was growing annually by 3.4%.
Word.
They explained how across all cultures, the history of healing has been infused with a sense of wonder and mystery that is now being lost to, wait for it, Paula, the medical model and evidence-based practices. Even with the advancement of science-backed approaches, the effectiveness, quote, I'm doing air quotes, of psychology-informed treatments has not improved in more than 40 years. Are you shocked? Are you appalled? You're not shocked. You're not appalled. In their final analysis, they determined that clinicians will have to embody what the majority plainly yearn for, a realm of possibilities for healing and change unbound by convention and traditional science.
Amen.
Do you have any comments? We didn't know when we signed up to submit for this book what this said. I mean, wow. I read that. I almost passed out.
So what if nothing's wrong with you? And what if psychotherapy in its traditional forms is just nonsense created by dead white men? And what if we need some magic? Absolutely.
Magic.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I mean, Einstein said the problem and the solution cannot come from the same source. And so if the problem comes from bullshit, capitalist, patriarchal, white supremacist thinking, and then the solution is supposed to come from bullshit, white supremacist, patriarchal thinking, bitch, that's not a solution.
You cannot dismantle, what is it? I should know who said this, and I don't. You cannot dismantle the master's house with the master's tools. That is a Black woman whose name I should know. I'm going to Google it because I'm horrified. Because we knew the Einstein one, but not that one.
Yes, right. Well, isn't that always the truth? We know what the dead white guy said, but we don't know what any of the dead white Black women said. Always. But I'm sure the dead Black women said it first. Yes.
Audre Lorde. It was Audre Lorde. Of course it was.
Of course it was. But yeah, that's amazing. So if you need more of that, it's also just a beautiful book to have laying around. It's one of these gorgeous books that it makes you look smart and well read to have laying around. So have it laying around.
Have it laying around.
And again, we don't get any money when you buy it.
No.
Yeah.
Another update from a listener. We're going to incorporate listener updates.
Yay!
You guys engage with us. But I sent the podcast about, if you recall, when I was talking about my friend who grew up outside of America, isn't American, but grew up outside of here in Palestine, and came here and was like, you guys have a lot of flags. This whole thing about the Americans. She reminded me after listening that her partner who is Italian, okay, so not like some village in Africa that doesn't like have a lot of flags physically, whatever, came here and was so confused because he was like, is there a sporting event today? Like the only time the Italians bring out as many flags as we have on a
during the World Cup
day, is literally for soccer matches. He was like walking around like, what event are they having? And she's like, no, this is just how they are.
This is just propaganda.
And so anyway, just to follow up, it's literally everyone thinks we are wackadoo with our flags.
That's foreshadowing into what's happening in the cosmos. But first, you have an update on your intuition, because we talked about intuition in the past episode. So tell us some of your intuition updates. I love these.
Yes, because I want to really cement this, because we talked about this, like maybe you're never going to get validation.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say that I think that we have to pay attention to the validation when it comes, whether it's for other people or for us.
Yes.
Because it helps us, going back to that evidence-based practice, like screw the evidence. Like this is real, whether we want to put it in articles or not. So when my youngest son was about 2 or 3, and he would get super, super, super dysregulated at night and be just like having meltdowns and freak out, and he was very difficult to soothe. And I just randomly one day started telling him a list of all the people that love him. I would be like, Lucas, let's just go through the list. Like, mommy loves you, daddy loves you, your brother loves you. And I'd go through the whole list down to the grandparents, people at school, whatever. And I've been doing that for years, and it worked. I would start it and he would just like calm down. And so now he's old enough. He's sometimes like, shut up with your list. But for years, this is when he was just irrationally dysregulated. This is what I would do. And it would weirdly calm him down. So I'm listening to this podcast, just FYI, if you have neurodivergent kids, the At Peace Parenting Podcast, and which is brilliant. And this woman talks about that's how she used to regulate her son.
See,
she had an intuition.
Yep.
And she called it. She was like, the episode was called Intuition and Parenting, or something like that. And she talks about how and I remembered when Dr. Gabor Mate in The Myth of Normal talks about how one of the greatest travesties of what we have done in this culture is remove intuition.
Yes.
The parenting industrial complex, with all their books and their do this and do that, has removed the role of parental intuition.
Yes.
That just says, you know what your child needs.
Yes.
And she did this whole episode, and I was like, that is the freakiest thing I've ever heard.
Love.
The two people across the country who have, and I bet there's other parents that have intuitively started using that. What is that? Why would that work? It's weird. Same exact tool. I was
Amazing.
like, shut up. So anyway, one validation.
Love.
Then, so I've been telling you all about my, I'm in trouble because of the racist feels I'm discriminating against the white people. Anyway, that seems to be all resolved. But the women, so I hope. But I called my insurance company because it looked like I might have to fight a very expensive legal battle for a minute. And I was like, I wonder if my insurance company would like to pay for my legal fees. Turns out they do not, because they never do. But this was not my malpractice insurance. This is not a social work focused small world insurance. This is like big business.
Oh, the big
right?
ones.
This was the Hartford. Yeah. This is like they insure, whatever, your dry cleaner, anyone. I call them. And the guy's like, well, I need the name of the person that's like, just in case for the file, whatever. I tell him her name. This is the social worker who's very upset about the rate. He goes, yeah. I know her. I was like, I'm sorry, what? He goes, yeah, she's and he tells me where she works. He goes, she works here at this university because she's a professor, obviously, of social work. And he was like, she works here. She is one of our, we call them serial plaintiffs. She's constantly suing people. This is like, she's such a serial plaintiff that an individual insurance company
knows her name.
That's not focused in social work has her on a list, and the random guy I'm talking to is like immediately like, oh yeah, I know her.
Oh, Jane Smith? Yeah, I know her.
We've got, and then he tells me how the whole serial plaintiff thing works and how they do it. And he's like,
oh my God.
She what did he say? He goes, she fancies herself quite the social justice warrior. And I was like, if only she were doing it on behalf of the actual victims of social injustice and not the perpetrators.
Wow.
Sure, this guy got that. I don't know where he is, but anyway. Validation.
Fascinating.
You just don't know
when the validation.
When I was getting emails from this woman, and I was like, I should not respond. I'm not going to respond. I was getting weird emails like fishing for information.
Yeah,
and I was like, I feel like this is this lady trying to find a way to sue me. Validation of one's intuition from a random guy named Alex at the Hartford.
Amazing.
Third one.
Amazing. Yeah, keep going. This is exciting.
Third one, and this one is kind of disturbing, but whatever. We're going to use it because this one is actually, I think, the most telling about. My son went to a preschool, and every time I would be around the director of this preschool, I would ruminate. So I think there's a lot to be learned about rumination, but I would ruminate.
We've talked about it here. Yeah.
What if this guy was a sexual predator? That's a weird thought. I just wonder. It seems weird he's in this job. I don't know. And every time I was with this guy, I remember sitting at his preschool graduation, ruminating about, is this guy a sexual predator? And then beating myself up for having that thought, because who thinks that? That's like a horror. Like there was no reason to think that. There was
because every woman has been taught to doubt her own intuition. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, there were no signs. I wasn't witnessing anything that made me think that. Like, in fact, he was
fucking evidence.
The opposite. Yeah, very jovial, seemed on the up and up. Yesterday, he was hauled in by the FBI for horrific child porn charges. And I will not go into the details, but gross. So I think
vibes, bro.
Whenever you're ruminating,
mm-hmm.
I used to think rumination was kind of like brain trash, but I really think when you have a rumination, a persistent one, especially, like we don't need to run off and tell everyone the guy's a sexual predator. I think I didn't log it as something serious, and now I'm like, I will, because you know what, I don't sit around and ruminate that a lot of other places. I'm not randomly ruminating that,
about
and so
every
now
person. Yeah,
if you're ruminating, let yourself be curious. My friend told me, and I literally said, I know, I've always known.
Yes. It's like that meme. Remember that meme when Matt Lauer, when he got, finally got Me Too'd, and like there was a meme that was so funny, but it was so true because it was like every woman everywhere was like, yeah, finally, because we just knew, right? And this is the thing about evidence is that like, intellect and cerebral processes are supposedly divorced of emotion in our fucked up culture, which means that we all doubt ourselves and doubt our intuition, which means that when we're ruminating, we doubt it and what's wrong with me. But rumination is, what is it? It's when we're trying to tolerate the intolerable. It's when we're trying to make sense of the unsensible. It is, and I like the way you said log it. Like, maybe don't go shouting from the rooftops that somebody's a sexual predator if you don't have evidence for it, but maybe just log it. Maybe just take, like we said on the episode right after the election, maybe just take your little inkling seriously. And again, like if the worst is that in a year, you're like, oh, that was interesting. Nothing came of that. Okay.
Right. And this has been 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the odds, the how he got
Yeah.
caught. I mean, the odds that I was ever going to know this are
Right.
so, I don't know why I tend to be the person that the validation just hits me like it's like constant.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with the insurance guy. I was like, you have got to be kidding me that you're telling me
course.
this. But
Of
it's
course.
like, and when I look back and I went through, so let's say it could have been psychic, like, whatever. I'd love to believe it's psychic, but I can pick out
course it
data
is.
points
Yeah.
that didn't add up for me. I can pick them out. And had I let myself sit down and be like, why are you ruminating about this? I might have been like, oh, okay, I'm going to just, maybe your kid doesn't go to that slumber party, or maybe your kid, and you will never know if you were being paranoid, but you know what? Who cares?
I mean,
who cares?
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So might as well. Well, that leads us into what just happened yesterday. And that is that we are moving out of a very cerebral, intellectual, evidence-based vibration in the culture and into a more like woo-woo vibey, the vibes are off, bruh, kind of vibration in the universe. So again, this comes out at the beginning of January. This happened on November 19th, but I have a feeling we will continue to feel it because Pluto went into Aquarius yesterday and will now be in Aquarius for 19 years. So until 2043. It went into Capricorn in 2008. So I know this is not an astrological podcast, so I'm not going to go into it fully, but I just want you to like get the vibes because I think what's been happening in terms of the election and in terms of everything that Lisa and I have been talking about on this podcast is leading into and will expand more into what's happening here. So,
and we're taping this in November.
Yeah.
And we're airing it in January. So people can now look back and be like, ooh, have these been the vibes since November? They can have a little reflection as you're talking.
Exactly. So again, this is not an astrological podcast. So let me just tell you, like, I'm going to break it real down. And yet it is, because everything is, because we are merely on a weird planet being affected by all the planets. So Pluto is the planet of metamorphosis, evolution, death, rebirth, transmutation. It's a destructive kind of planet, but destructive in a good way. Like when shit needs to die, Pluto comes in. It's like the death card or the tower card in the tarot. Aquarius, which is what I am, this is my sun sign, is the zodiac sign of paradigm shifts. It's a sign of like breakthroughs. It's visionary. It's expansive. Oprah is an Aquarius. A lot of people who are like can see. So like an Aquarius we're way up in the air. We're an air sign, even though it's Aquarius. That's a little confusing, but we're way up in the air and we like see the entire thing. And we're like, hey, you guys, this is not congruent with this. And this doesn't work with this and blah, blah, blah. So that's the Aquarius thing. We are expansion and we are about humanitarian shit. Like what works for everybody. We are the most like social justice liberation based sign. So Pluto going into Aquarius is a big deal. Just so you know, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was from 1778 to 1798. Perhaps if you remember your history classes, that was a span of time where it saw the French, American, Haitian, and industrial revolutions.
That was busy.
It was busy 20 years. It was the Age of Enlightenment. Pluto's last cycle in Aquarius also included the dismantling of many social hierarchies, resistance to the powers that be at the time, the reevaluation of labor, the violent responses to economic disparities. So the last time, again, the French Revolution, the last time there was this much disparity between the people who have all the money and the people that don't have any money was in 1778 to 1798, and that's when everything was overthrown.
You are tripping me out.
Right? So just so if you're feeling any of this, and again, like we're on November 20th right now, and that guy who was elected is putting a lot of literal cartoon characters in very powerful positions. And it's like, okay, well, maybe this is what's about to happen. Maybe we are at a time, as one of my psychic teachers says, the way we know that something needs to die is shit gets more and more and more absurd. And if we are not right now at the pinnacle, in the pinnacle of absurdity, I don't know where we are, but it seems like that's where we are. And that's how we know
we're in such a land of absurdity that the
Yes.
Republicans are on TV wishing he would stop appointing people so they can catch their breath.
Right.
This was taped 2 days after Dr. Oz was announced. Just to contextualize. When Paula says absurdity, where we are.
Dr. Oz, the guy who had to testify in Congress about selling green tea supplements to reduce belly fat, which is not real. None of it's real. It's all not real. But yes, we are in the land of absurdity. We are in the land of everything needs to be burnt down because it's all a scam. So, yay!
How long
Buckle
will
up,
this
Buttercup.
last, Paula? I don't know anything about this. I'm always asking Paula. I'm like, the Gemini, what? Who's the what? I don't know. How long are we? Is this
2043?
This will also
19 years. 19
years. So it's always a 2-decade.
It's always around a 2-decade thing. Yeah.
Aren't we all lucky?
Here you go. Buckle up. Here we are. Yeah. Enjoy that. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing in nature that doesn't need to be destroyed in order to rebuilt. And so that might be what we're doing.
So maybe if we all start panicking, or if we get scared, which a lot of people right now in November are sitting in my office very scared. But maybe if we are scared, and as we are grieving things that may be destroyed, as we are, we might also have an inquiry, again, not along the like minimizing gaslighting, like this is great, because a lot of people are going to get hurt.
Yes.
And we might also say, like, what about this might have needed to die? What is the shadow side of this thing? I think maybe that's a good way. Like, what is the shadow side of this thing that I have been holding as all good, all helpful?
Yes.
Who might it have been hurting? Because I think that's the whole idea, is these binaries are not serving us.
There's no such
thing. This
thing.
is all good, which is what we're going to talk about next. This is all bad.
None of that's
is
real.
not serving us. And that might be a way we can kind of help ourselves reflect about things, is like, who benefits from this dying? What is the dark side of this kind of thing?
Everything dies.
All right.
Everything needs to die. Everything has to die. Everything on this plane of existence has to die. So so things have to die. It's sort of like when you really, really, really need to quit a terrible job, and then Mother God in her infinite wisdom puts like the most egregious, awful person as your boss, and you're like, okay, I got it. Peace out. I have to get out of here. I think that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're just going to be along for the ride with you guys.
Everyone will be right here. Yes. And we'll continue to take care of each other. And that's what we'll talk about in just a minute. But we wanted to do a little redo on gossip, because we were rethinking our previous episode. So tell me what your thoughts were around that, Lisa.
Well, I don't know if it was rethinking it, but just I'm hearing, I don't know if you're hearing this, Paula, but there is, as we are headed into this very unknown, that people, and this has been going on for a while, but people are getting very centered around like, we're going to need to be in community with people. We are going to,
Yeah.
there is fear around, can I trust the people? Or like, what if this turns into genuine fascism? Like, people are having fantasies, right? About like Nazi Germany, about what, and if this is genuine fascism, how do we deal with information? Like, we're not great at this. Everybody's been living in this, where you can say whatever you want and you're safe, and and so I think having this sense of like, I just started thinking about gossip. We had talked about it on this more interpersonal level, or how it helps like women deal with the men in their community, and thinking of it more on this macro level of like, gossip has kept people alive at times like this, and being judicious about who you gossip with. And there was this story that I read about these knitting ladies that in one of the wars, I'm not good at remembering details of stories, but in some, war where everybody was whatever, they would share information for the neighboring villages, like probably like, they're coming to like check the whatevers. They would sit together and knit. It was in France, so that pins it down. I remember because they were in France, and they would knit and talk about nonsense. Looked like women chatting about gossiping, if you will. Right. And they were knitting each other letters of a code to relay the secret information that they needed to convey to the village, and they kept a lot of people alive.
I love women.
And I was just like, gossip? And I mean, tell me those women were not neurodivergent, because they had to track a conversation while they're knitting, while they're communicating in code, while they're reading a code. I mean, I'm sorry. Those are the autistics are gonna like, that was just save the day right there. Yeah. But I thought, wow, gossip is gonna take on possibly a new meaning. And I've been thinking about therapists as the holders. Like in the pandemic, we are the aggregates of a lot of information. Like if we each see 20 to 40 people in a community, we're holding a lot of information, and we can't share that about your like identity and who you are, but we can kind of start, like in the pandemic, it was like, oh, okay, like this is really happening. People are hunkering down. And then when the vaccines came out, it's like, oh, you can get them at this safe way and not that safe way. Right? Like and I think that's an important role that we hold, that we can potentially, again, not gossiping about people's personal business.
No,
but, like,
of course.
About trends and what people are feeling and like, doing to protect themselves and how they're moving through the world. So I was just having all kinds of thoughts about gossip, I guess.
I love that. I don't know how much it reminds me of. I don't know how many times a day you say, but I know that I say several times a day, I hope it helps you to hear that you're not alone in the way you're feeling. Something, I will say several times a week, something I've said several times this week is, and so holding that, like, you are not alone in the way you're feeling about this. You and I just had somebody yesterday who had a terrible breakup. And I was talking about how many times I have talked to female identifying people about breakups and said to them, this is not about you. You are brilliant and gorgeous and incredible. He's very afraid. I don't know what's wrong with the straight men. It's not your fault. It's like we hold these things because we have, and we all, and maybe those of you who are therapists know this too, right? Like you find yourself having the same conversation over like a week or 2 weeks. And I usually think that there's something in the stars and the planets about that, but it is like, and maybe going back to what you read at the beginning of our Encyclopedia of Radical Healing book, right? Like, and I was thinking about this after the election too. I think maybe the pandemic and then, the first time that guy was elected and this time too, our jobs may have to, I want our jobs to be broader. I want our jobs to be more magical. I want our jobs to be more about inclusion and community building. Like we talked about when we started this podcast, that our jobs were modeled after our deeply fucked up medical industrial complex medical model. But like, wouldn't it be great if the people who are getting into the jobs now, and there are so many radical social justice, anti-racist people getting into it, that they are broadening the scope of what a therapist's role is in the community and in a person's life? Let's do it.
And we were, I mean, it's so ironic because we were trained as social workers. We were trained as community workers, and then therapy imposes this, interesting, like, oh no, you wouldn't like hand your client a pack of Plan B. You would just talk about their feelings about the fact that they're pregnant and can't get an abortion. I think we're both
Bitch.
like, I would like what? But it is, we are
How many
taught,
Plan
like,
Bs
that
do you
is
want?
unethical.
Right.
That is bad. And it's like, we are social workers. We
Mhm.
are literally, our profession arises from
From
meeting communities' needs as they tell us they need to be. And we are so
Exactly.
divorced from that through
the white
therapy. And I think,
supremacist.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it
No.
gives us a frame, not that we're all going to go out and start, having dinner with all of our clients, but like, I think a lot, it's like really questioning,
Yes.
like, what is this role? What are we doing? Where is it really not enough to sit and talk
Yes.
to people about their not
Feelings.
and not like, I'm going to go fix all your problems. I'm not going to like,
Right.
I can't pay your mortgage if you lose your job, but that it's like that foundationally we can perhaps do far more
Right.
than we are doing if we free ourselves from this individualistic symptom
Exactly.
treatment.
Fractured.
Like, all your feelings are
fragmented.
inside of you, and they're a sign of something wrong with you. Like,
Right.
contextualizing it. I think I said 1,000 times this week, like, you are not alone in that. I had a group, Paula, that one person in the group said, this is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but I'm really having trouble getting myself to like do much. I feel really slow and depressed, and like the things I can do, I'm like a slug. I'm just moving through the earth. And literally 5 out of the 6 people in the group were like, oh my God, that's what I just thought there was something wrong with me. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God.
There's nothing wrong with you.
Literally, there's a tsunami coming at us. Like, that sends, there is something
in Washington,
D.C.
D.C. Yes.
And everybody was like, it can't be the election. I think there's just, something wrong with me. And I was like, there's 5, and honestly, it was more than that, because like the therapists were feeling it too. I've been like really in that space. And it's just like, guys, I think when this is happening to an entire room of people, perhaps there's
not an individual
larger,
problem.
But it's so hard for people to let themselves be like, I'm being affected by the world. They were like almost ashamed to say, I feel like I know this is crazy, but I'm just feeling like maybe I'm affected by the world. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. The indoctrination of individualism and the fragmented ways in which we are with each other and are with ourselves, and fractured. We are fractured by the delusion of individualism. There's not something wrong with you. There's never anything wrong with you.
No.
Love that. So here are some other things that Lisa and I have come up with in the past 2 weeks, and that I think would be great things to do at the beginning of 2025 to feel more sane and connected to the world. Number 1, go to Trader Joe's and look at people in the eyes while you pick up your crackers. Number 2,
and speak bad West African French. If you've
right.
got it.
Or I speak terrible Spanish, but I'm really proud of myself. Tip generously. That's always something that I have done, because I have lived with a person who worked in restaurants, and as my life partner says, it's not tipping I believe in, it's over tipping. So tip generously. Yes.
And these were just ways that we were trying to, because everybody's getting so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And we were like, what are small things we can do to like put good in the world and feel like we have some connection with it? So the next one is if you don't have one already, get a library card. This is like so.
Yes.
I didn't know this, but even if you're never going to use it, sign up for a library card.
Yes.
Your library will get more money.
Yes.
And your library is a major hub of like homeless services, all kinds of stuff. They're serving all kinds of people that you probably don't know that they're like computers are helping people get jobs that need to get jobs. Yes. And their funding goes up. And if you do want to use your library card, there is something, dare I go back to the idea of magic, right? Magical about library. Do you feel it when you walk into a library?
I even need a library.
Love. It's like there is something about the energy of a library. If you feel sad, go sit in your public library. Amen. Like, just go be there. Look at the bulletin board things of all the little community things.
My God.
There is something magical about the library. That's it.
Isn't it the DC libraries that have the t-shirt that says libraries are punk rock? What's more punk rock than a public library? I love that so much. They're so punk rock. It's so great. Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay.
We've said this before, but we'll say it again. You guys, do your wills and get your powers of attorney, especially for LGBTQ, for people who are in not straight seeming or straight relationships. Go get things taken care of. Get a lawyer. There are lawyers right now. There's so many. I mean, again, this happens every time a fascist or seemingly fascist person is in power. But like, I know members of the clergy who are like, where are the gays? Do they want to get married? I know lots of OBGYNs that are like, who wants their tubes tied? Everybody gets their tube tied, right? And there are one of my friends here in the desert, it does wills and such. He is a lawyer, and he's like, who needs a will? Let's get it going, right? So before January 20th, just get your shit in order. And if we were just quote unquote being paranoid, fine. But
yeah,
it's
nothing
probably
bad.
a good
We
idea.
can do the things
Yes.
that you will not regret anyway.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
just go ahead and let this be your impetus to do some extra protective things.
Yes.
Just in case. And there are things that are good anyway. And you may have people in your life that, and it's, we don't want to induce panic or stress people out.
Sure.
I think there's a line, but if there's immigrant families or people that may not kind of be versed in what's going on, you might kind of just check in about like,
Yes.
is your passport up to date?
Yes.
Do you have this in place? They might need connections. Like when we talk about this idea of keeping it local and in community,
Yeah.
it's like, that's how we can kind of look around and be like, do you, feel oriented to what's going on? Do you need any help figuring stuff out? Like, getting connected to resources. That's a little thing we can just kind of help folks do.
Yes.
I'll never stop evangelizing about wills and powers of attorney.
Those, I mean, all of us on this Zoom call have had parents either pass or parents get ill or parents, right? And it is so important. I'm so grateful that my parents had all of their shit in order. It really is such a gift that you can give to your loved ones. Please do that. And then in terms of your body, get all your Plan Bs. I bought a truckload of them. My ovaries don't even make eggs anymore, but I have a lot of Plan Bs to hand out to anybody who wants IUDs replaced. Get
just
stuff.
Thinking about that stuff. I think OBGYNs are going to be much more willing to just remove. If you just wanted your tubes removed, but you didn't want to argue for a long time with your OBGYN,
now is the time.
There may be some now in the bluer areas that are willing to do it. And they won't even look at you twice.
Yes.
A lot of men are thinking about getting vasectomies if they feel like, I'm never going to want to have a kid. And sure, go ahead. Why not? And I just like people to know there's a thing called an ablation, which I don't know if people know about this, but also if you have horrible periods, if it's especially when you're in menopause and you're just like, oh my God, what is happening to me? They can remove the lining of your uterus. Yeah. And it's not like having a full hysterectomy. It takes away your ability to get pregnant, I believe, maybe not 100%. You could ask your doctor, and it doesn't hurt. It's like, they have to put you under. It's a thing. But it's not painful. And if you're like, I don't want to think about this ever again, and I don't want periods anymore, talk to your doctor about an ablation. A lot of people don't even know that exists. They do.
You're doing God's work right now. Great. Everyone, uterus ablations for everyone. I don't even know if that's the term, but everybody get yourself ablated. I don't know if that's the term either. Yeah, great. Buy books as gifts. I think that's really important. I love giving books as gifts. That's like my favorite thing. Also, does everyone know about thriftbooks.com? If you don't want to buy books from Amazon and you don't have a bookstore in your area, thriftbooks.com is you buy used books. I love them. And they get you, it's fast. Like it's almost as fast as Jeff Bezos. So thriftbooks.com is my favorite. Yeah. I have never bought, I've never looked for a book on thriftbooks.com that they did not have.
Wow. And I will say, I just learned today, there is an app called Storygraph, which if you are mad at, what's the Amazon-based app everybody uses to track their books? I can't remember. The one that Goodreads. Some people are mad at Goodreads. Storygraph imports your Goodreads, so you don't lose it all. It is a Black-owned, woman-owned app that I think is not, I don't know what was going on Goodreads. Like they were dinging, I don't know. It just seemed kind of scandalous at a time. I got off of it, but I just got on Storygraph, and they recommend books to
Great.
you based on whatever. Anyway, and it's
Wait,
independently owned
Nnaemeka-
by a Black woman. Why not?
Nnaemeka, do you know why nobody likes Goodreads?
I
No.
stopped using that
Oh,
a
really?
long time ago, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I heard there was like bullying going on
Oh.
it, that it like people were trying to get certain people's things to go lower, and it could be
Oh.
used, and or writing bad reviews, or I don't know, that it was, there was something, and I was like, that sounds yuck.
Some of Russell
So,
Brand's
yeah.
minions were bullying everybody to get his books in number one position or some shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. That's really helpful. And I think the most important thing, which is very hard for people who live in the DC area, is to be very protective of your attention. I just read this thing today, and Lisa and I have been talking about this because Lisa likes to watch the news. I think I said on the episode right after the election, I will not be. I will not be.
Likes is a strong word.
Okay.
I hover somewhere between how much, what do I need to know to like, be, and God, I mean, maybe we don't need to know any of it. Once Dr. Oz was announced, I was like, this may
Great.
just be a circus. None of us need to be participating in.
Yeah. Well, there is a woman, she did all of this research into propaganda, and specifically propaganda in North Korea and how it relates to the propaganda before the Holocaust. And we think that propaganda is spread through emotion, meaning like keeping us anxious, keeping us scared, keeping us good. It's actually spread through boredom. We get so bored of the same thing over and over that we lose all defense against it. And it holds the place of, this is my favorite part, the propaganda holds the place of whatever world or community we could create. We're so bored by the onslaught of terror and horror and absurdity currently, and we just let it in. Our defenses are down completely through boredom, such that there's no space for us to create or imagine, or I will steal Adrienne Marie Brown's words of deliberate imaginings. There's no room for deliberate imaginings of what the world could be. So please be very protective of your attention, not just because it raises your blood pressure, which it does, but also what's even more scary to me is when it no longer raises your blood pressure, and then it's just kind of taking the place of what you could imagine your life to be or the world to be. So that, I thought that was fascinating.
And all of the anti-authoritarian, all the stuff I've been seeing in like the book on tyranny, the people that have studied authoritarianism and what happens to people in communities, speaks to kind of what you always say, which is like touch trees.
Yes.
They're like, you have to go out and make the eye contact. That's the the eye contact. It's like, you need to get constantly, we have to work a little harder even to be very grounded in the real world. So when the TikTok and everybody's like, everybody hates each other and we're never speaking to anybody again, and like blah, blah, blah.
Is that what you're experiencing?
To remind ourselves, like, is that how people are relating? Is that how I feel with people? Is that because we can get very seduced into thinking that even mainstream media, because that's a whole nonsense. If you just listen to that, I mean, it's like, this is a layer of reality that is like missing about 15 million other layers of reality. And it's like, we got to go out and be among people, touch trees, be in the world. To practice, I think, using our intuition to like sitting on TikTok or sitting on Instagram is, you're not, in any way getting in touch with like, how am I really feeling about this? You're not assessing. Right. And we need to be kind of out in the vibes. Yes. Checking in on, I mean, I just gave somebody an exercise literally to be like, I want you to write down 3 words, 3 vibes every time you meet someone new. Ooh. Because I want you to start practicing.
Paying attention to the vibes.
Reading, paying attention to your internal response to people. We're never going to know if it's right. We don't care. I want you to start reading vibes and developing a relationship with your own sense of, oh, that person, I didn't like being around that person. Oh, I did like being around that person. That person was fun. That person was critical. That like vibe check. And I think we got to be in the world to practice that skill that may become more important in the coming days, months, years.
Nietzsche said, never trust a thought you have indoors, which I love. So yes, go outside, stare at the mountains, stare at the big open sky, and then assess how you feel about everything. Yeah, love.
Well, just the last piece that we were going to say is to be of service.
Yes.
I've been thinking about this a lot. In a way, be of service in a way that genuinely suits you, that is not a drain, that is not a drag, that fits your skills. Yeah. One thing I am hearing, because I've been asking my patients to reflect on when they get kind of like doom and gloom a little, and doom and gloom is fine, it's warranted. Sure. And when do a little hope practice, I've been saying, like, are you the same person that you were in 2016? And no one is the same, at least here in this area. Everyone feels, and what a lot of them are saying is, in 2016, and this was also my experience, I was thinking, like, I gotta fix everything. Like, you send me an email, I'm gonna like sign the petition, I'm gonna call the senator, I'm gonna like and that there was this sense of like no one was being effective. They're like, because it was just too. And really, people are in a much more kind of mature. I mean, I just heard somebody like are saying that, like, no, I'm not doing that because I am really good at this. And this is my lane. And I can take care of this really well. And like that, I think, is a lovely way to think about. We don't want to be like throwing spaghetti. When I worked in philanthropy, they used to talk about donors that would just like give $20 here and there. And trying to educate, whatever. I have a lot of thoughts about on philanthropy, but like educating people about like, what if you combined all that money and gave it to one place, and then you knew that place and you were involved in that place. And I think that is a good frame. And it can't be draining. You need to be getting some joy or something back from what you're doing, or you're going to burn out and it's not sustainable. So look for, and it may have to find you. You might have to just chill out for a minute. And what you're, maybe the way you might contribute or be helpful might find you organically.
And it's probably in your own backyard too, right? Like that's the thing too, is it's probably, I mean, there are the Oprahs in the world who are giving, I mean, we have a whole thing about Oprah, don't we? But like, there are the people who are doing all the things, but then a lot of it can just be done in your own backyard. It's like you cannot do all that needs to be done, but what you can do needs to be done. So, yeah.
And if you have Oprah money, let us know, because we would like for you to underwrite this podcast.
I have ideas. We have so many ideas. That's true. If you are a gajillionaire, I don't think any gajillionaires are listening to our podcast.
I don't think so either.
We wish you, Lisa Nnaemeka and I wish you the happiest of 2025s. And the happiest of Pluto in Aquarius and whatever the next chapter brings. And if you have ideas or thoughts or questions that you would like to pose to two disillusioned therapists, we would love to answer those. And you can find us on Instagram. We would love for you to give us a review on iTunes if you are open to that. That would help us out a lot. And the all-powerful algorithms. And we'll talk to you next time.
If you too didn't know who Melissa Etheridge is, let us know.
We're just going to
bring you right into the circle of shame. No, let us know, because I don't want to be alone in here with Adam and Liz. There have to be more.
Oh, God, we have to tag Melissa Etheridge on this. All right, guys, take care of yourselves and the people that you love, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast and any written materials related to it represent the opinions of Paula Atkinson and Lisa Kiggs and our guests to the show and any written materials. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. It is for informational and educational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship.